Have you ever looked up at the night sky, saw the Milky Way stretching across the horizon, and thought, how do I capture the beauty in this photo? Today, I'm going to share with you my 4 tips on how to create killer Milky Way shots. Let's go. So a couple more considerations when shooting Milky Way photography is going to be light pollution. Make sure that there is no light pollution behind where you're shooting. So if you're shooting at a lake or something like that, the Milky Way is going to be in front of you. Make sure there's no city on the other side of the lake, because you're going to get a light dome, or you're going to get a halo from all the city lights, and that's really going to hurt your shot. You always want to check for the moon phase. You always want to make sure it's on a moonless night, or before the moon has risen. That's important too. And you always want to make sure that you know when the galactic center or the galactic core of the Milky Way is going to be up. That's the part of the Milky Way where all the nebula and stars and all that other stuff is, that part that looks really good. Okay, you have your location, it's a clear night, and you're gonna go shoot some Milky Way photography. What equipment do I need to bring? Basically, there's only 5 pieces of equipment you really need. The first thing you need is your camera, obviously. A DSLR or a mirrorless camera, something with good high ISO noise performance is absolutely critical. A nice, fast, wide-angle lens, 15 millimeter, 18 millimeter, 20 millimeter, something along those lines with a fast aperture like a 1.4 or a 2.8 aperture, something in there. The faster the lens, the better. A good sturdy tripod. You want to eliminate camera shake as much as possible, so a good sturdy tripod is going to help with that. The other thing you're going to need is a remote shutter release. That is going to allow you to trigger your camera remotely and remove any shake from the shot. And the last thing you need is really simple, just a headlamp, and you're ready to go. So there's some basic camera settings that you should use when you're doing Milky Way photography. Basically, the first thing is you always want to shoot in manual mode. You want to control your aperture, you want to control your shutter speed. Aperture should be set at 2.8 or better. ISO should be set anywhere from 3200 to 6400, depending on how your camera handles low light. Some cameras handle low light better than other cameras. That's something you're going to have to mess around with to get an idea of how your camera is going to handle the low light. The last thing you need to worry about is your shutter speed, and there's a real simple procedure for that. It's called the rule of 500, where you basically take the number 500 divided by your focal length, and that comes up with your shutter speed. So the next thing you want to do after having all your settings right is get your camera focus. And the easiest way that I found to do this is I actually use a lens that has an infinity mark built into it. So I actually focus the camera over to infinity, and then I'll use live view on the back of the camera. I'll lock the camera in manual focus. I'll zoom in on a star, focus it, and then zoom back out with live view. And then that will give me the focus for that shot. But remember, when you're focused on the stars, you may need to refocus on your foreground to compose your shot later if you're going to have an object in the foreground, especially if that object is close to your camera, because if not, it's going to be out of focus. So you might actually get stuck having to do a couple exposures of the Milky Way, and then actually a few exposures of your foreground to make sure you get that in focus. Focus is critical. So like I said, make sure you're focused over to infinity. Use live view, zoom in via live view, find a star, focus on that, and then zoom back out, and then you should have focus. So just a couple more tips for Milky Way photography. I think the big thing to remember is always shoot in RAW and try to use the minimal amount of ISO as possible, but use the histogram on the back of your screen. I've fallen into this trap several times where I've been out, I'll shoot a shot of the Milky Way, it'll look great on the back of the monitor because I'm out in the dark and it looks amazing. And I get back to the office here and it turns out it's like a stop or two underexposed. So whatever you do, use the histogram on the back of your screen, to give you an idea of where your exposure is. Don't blow out any highlights, like don't blow the stars out, but try to find something neutral in the middle. Okay, so those are my 5 quick tips for Milky Way photography. I'm going to be doing a more in-depth video coming up soon. Thanks for watching the channel, and we'll see you out there. Bye.